Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust, and Transparency. Today, I'm answering a super interesting question from a member that has been watching my videos for a few months and asked for, a couple of ideas or things to think about. This one is particularly exciting because I believe the size of the portfolio is huge. So congratulations. Let me read it to you and you guys will know what I mean. So it says, "Hi Davey. Been following you for a few months now and your content is always very good. I thought I've got a question that might give me some ideas. How do I quit my PAYG and still invest?" So I've got a decent portfolio, circa 16 mil in assets. Let's write this down. So 16 mil assets. 14 mil across 12 resi, 3 commercial. He's also only got 8 mil debt. Wow. And 8 mil in equity. Now, all assets are owned in various trusts and individual names. Got about 3 mil debt under personal name, but looking to refinance about half of that into a new trust at the moment. Currently, we are 42 and 39. We both have a PAYG earning a combined income of $400,000 or $200,000 each. While the PAYG income is still nice to have now, I suspect in 2 years' time, my only reason to work would be it allows me to keep borrowing. Cash flow wise, I'm about 80 grand negative per year in property, but that's because I went in heavy in Melbourne in the last 12 months. I'm in the process of building granny flat as well, my first subdivision with a house at the back to increase cash flow. I'm not interested in starting any business, except maybe some small development projects, but mostly the intention is develop to keep, so still need proper financing once the developments are done. I've also invested in JVs, one being commercial development to make some profit. I'm also thinking setting up a bucket company to retaining profits from these JV deals. So the question is, how do I prepare in the next 2 years for quitting PAYG that will allow me to keep on invest and borrowing the money I need? I'm still interested in resi investing for probably another cycle or two before shifting all to commercial. Do you think I'm ready to quit PAYG now or need some time to prepare? If you were in this position and want to quit PAYG now, what would you do? Thanks, Sam. Sam, first and foremost, congratulations on 400 grand combined household income. To be building out this sort of portfolio is incredible. Do I think you have enough to retire? Yes. Before I get into the answer, you've asked, what would you do? And I can tell you what I would do, but if you or anyone else is watching, please don't mistake what would I do for me trying to tell you what you need to do and it as financial advice. Obviously, you asked me a question, I'm happy to answer it, spitball a few ideas, but that would be the only thing that I would recommend. Obviously a couple more ideas to think about, but obviously I'm not licensed to give financial advice, so I won't be doing so on my channel. However, let's dig into this a little bit. Couple things that I want to say on this. Sammy, I actually think that you're ready to retire, passive income, travel the world. One thing that I think people get caught up in is you don't need to invest forever. I know it's cool to have, but at the end of the day, you, my friend, have 15 headaches, especially if 12 of that is resi. A lot of that is going to be headaches for you. Think maintenance, tenants, all that kind of thing. I know you want to invest in resi, but I think now, and one thing I probably don't have from you is dates and LVRs and purchasing the property, but I think now is your time to transition this into that. Keep in mind as well, some banks will have a look at that rental income that you get from properties and shave it back. Some will do 20, some will do 10, some will do 5. I think this is going to be the way to do it. For me, if this is my own personal portfolio, I look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, I don't know how hard you went in Melbourne or how many of these 12 resi properties are from your current purchase, but I'm going to say you went hard. I'm going to say 4 of these that you've purchased in Melbourne. If you've purchased within the last 12 months, as you'll know from my other videos, you need to allow time for those properties to not only grow, but to also calm down and to make it worth your time, because we know that, you know, entry costs, then selling costs, once we take that into consideration, there's not a lot of money that is to be made there. So I'm going to say that you have at least 8 properties. Again, you might have 10, you might have less, but you have 8 properties that you've owned for quite some time, you know, and if we say that this is say circa 3 mil worth of property, that means you've got 14 mil, commercial could be say 1.5 mil each. I'm just spitballing here. So that's 4.5 mil in commercial. You've got 3 mil here of that you've purchased in Victoria recently. That means 7.5 mil that you've got of assets that you probably want to retain and not want to sell. Meaning left from that is 7.5. You said you had 14's worth. That means, that tells me that you potentially have 6.5 mil worth of property amongst these. To me, what I would be doing is looking to sell down my resi. I think you're at that stage. You might not think you're at it, but trust me when I say this, when we do portfolio plans for our members, they need nowhere near this many properties. So the fact that you've got this many already tells me that 100% are ready and you need to start that transition, in my opinion. That's what I would do. Personally, I would look to sell, and if I want to get into it, I would look to sell the majority or the overwhelming majority of these assets, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, say. Maybe you're retaining 2. Now, what properties that are you going to pick to sell? I'm going to sell the ones that I've held for the longest amount of time, that have went through the most amount of cycles, that will give me the greatest profit when I sell them. Now, I don't know all those individual properties and what the LVRs are and what year that you've bought them. So you'll have to go back and make your own assessment. But I would think by doing this, you can probably clear, even if you went and sold all of them, you said, Dave, they've all doubled, we've had heaps of work. I retain the Melbourne ones, or the ones that I've bought in the last 12, 24 months. Now, let's say you sell that off and you pay 25% and you come out 4 mil. You come out with 4 mil cash, right? Selling those off. Now, you're going to tell me if that's reasonable or not. I'm not too sure. I would assume 6.5 million. There's a bit of selling costs in there. There's a bit of stamp duty. There's a bit of CGT at probably 25%. 4 mil. What you could do straight away is take that 4 mil, purchase in cash 2 $2 million commercial properties. Call it 7% yield. Call it 7% yield. That is going to give you, my friend, 140K per year, and that is going to give you 140K per year, meaning those 2 properties will now make you $280,000 per year. The good thing about that is that the tenants are going to pay all the outgoings, so you don't really have the churn and burn of a residential property portfolio. With the reason that we invest in resi is so that we can essentially have the funds required to then leverage into commercial, then can then leverage into development, can then leverage into potentially, you know, unit blocks and those sorts of things. So for me, if you were to sell these down, clear 4 million, I could go out and buy that. That gives me 280. Now, from the 3 commercials that you own, I said 1.5 mil each. I mean, you tell me, but already you've got 3 commercials. They're at 1.5 each. So 1.5, let me just run this out. 1.5 mil, 1.5 mil, 1.5 mil. You know, you could be getting, say, 6%. 6%, 6%, 6%. Now the money for those are probably going to be costing you 55, 80 grand a year, 80 grand a year in costs. If they're yielding at 6%, they're going to be bringing in, say, 90 grand, 90K, which means you've got about 30K passive here. 30K passive here, 200K passive here. Melbourne is stinging you a little bit. You said I think it was about 70, 80 grand. Hopefully by selling most of that solves the issue. For the other ones that you have left in your portfolio, you do have the granny flat. You do have the granny flat and sub, plus the sub. Now, even to add that up, there's probably going to be an extra 150, 170, 180 grand from the sale of these properties that you can do and add. Maybe you can add another granny flat to one of these to balance that resi portfolio out. But from here, I can already see 310 grand of passive income. Now, the good thing is even if the bank shaves that 20% and they minus 62K, you, my friend, will still have, call it circa $248,000 in passive income. Again, I don't know what your PPR situation is. I don't know if you own your PPR, you need to buy a PPR, but to me, this is probably a plan or something I would like to go with. I know you said you want to get into and call it, you want to invest for another cycle. Well then, okay, you hold your Victorian properties, right? Let them run the cycle, and then the final nail in the coffin, the one that you go out in when you say, all right, I don't really need to invest anymore, is you selling off a couple of those, then maybe you're just paying off the debt in 1, 2, 3. And then so that way, after you've done that, and these ones are bringing in, say, 90 grand each, well then I have 90 times 3. 90 times it by 3, we have 270K here. We have 270K here. We have 280K there. That would be the easiest way to do it. So that would be, I think, the easiest way to do it. So step 1, let's do this in a nutshell. And again, I'm making some assumptions with how this is split up and what the costs are, but I'd be leaving the properties that I've just bought in the last 12 to 24 months in Melbourne. You know, we want to let that go through a couple of cycles. I'd then be reviewing the rest of the properties. Now, remember, they've had their time. Those ones that you've held for a long time, they've doubled, maybe they've tripled. The ones that you have, you'll make the most amount of money on. There might be some ones that you need to leave on there for another cycle. Fair enough. I'd sell them down from the profits. I'd then go out. Hopefully there's about 4 mil worth of profits on my calculations, maybe more. Go out, boom, I'm going straight into $2 million properties, yielding at 6 to 7%, even 6 to 7 conservatively means 240K to 280K. Right? That's step 1. That will allow you to invest in any of the ones that you want to for the next sort of cycle. You retain the commercial ones that you've got, provided that they're decent assets. Hopefully they are, and if you've bought 15 properties, you probably know what you're looking for by now. And then once the Melbourne ones that you've purchased have had that run in 5, 7, whatever years, then you call it, you're selling down majority of those, you're paying off the debt in your other resis, and then that way, my friend, you only have 5 properties. 5 properties at, what did we say passive income is? 550K, 550K passive income. The goal of property is not for you to try to get this number as high as you can. It's to get this number as high as you can. So the people that are out there, they've got 20, 30, 50, 80 properties, what they won't tell you is a lot of that portfolio is negatively geared, but held up by their business, which is usually buyer's agency business, where they sell the dream that everyone else can go and do it. But that's not how it works. So you can go in there, 5 properties fully paid off, 550K. Even if you didn't have a PPR, that would pay your lifestyles and renting anywhere in wherever you're from, a very, very nice house. So that could be definitely one way to do it. You've got cash as well. You've got those other shares that you can liquidate whenever you want, and also potentially balance up or look to balance up the resi that of the ones that you've just bought. Maybe we can get creative. We're subdividing the blocks. We're adding a couple of granny flats, those sorts of things, so it doesn't kill you too much in the meantime. But even here or at the end, the bank's going to give you enough money there to invest. And at 550K a year, or after you've done the sell down, you're gonna have a little bit of extra money. So that's when you can play and invest in a couple of projects, into those sorts of things. So Sammy boy, congratulations. That's what my breakdown would be. Easy way to get to 550K, not much work required. And don't forget as well, these are increasing at, these rental leases as well are increasing at, say, 4 or 5% a year. So on that, that's going to go up at least, sort of $25,000 a year, which is absolutely fantastic. And you can have all that written into the lease. So that's a quick brain unload. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. If you got a question, dump them in the comments or message me on Instagram like Sam did. And if you've got any sort of value from this, hit subscribe. Again, 2,500 by the end of the year. Let's see if we can get there. But as always, guys, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.